What's up, YouTube? It's Rochelle Tannen. It's November 11, 2024. It's 2:35 a.m. here in Phoenix, Arizona. And as I promised in my welcome back video, I was going to talk about the Resilient Jenkins, and I wanted to get my thoughts together. And going forward, my goal is to shorten my videos. I don't want to be as long-winded. So let's get into it. Over this weekend, I mentioned that I've fallen into the Tofia Chu-verse and the Resilient Jenkins universe. Came across my YouTube, and I'm not really on TikTok, but you know, if you're on YouTube, that we get a lot of their content over here on YouTube. And the Resilient Jenkins came across my channel. Let me start out by saying I knew they weren't married, and I knew before I even watched the video what time it was to a certain degree. This woman, Stephanie, is 28. She's going on her 7th kid in this combined household, but I believe she only has 3 or 4 children out of the 7. With her quote-unquote husband, Andrew, which I knew they weren't married because I knew this was a black guy, and 9 times out of 10, black guys don't marry anyone. So I knew that was a lie the minute I started watching the video. Her video, I'm sure you've all seen it, is her with 6 children and 2 adults, soon to be 7. Let me start off by saying I've been in that situation, living in a small apartment with multiple kids and a blended situation, and 2 adults. It's not comfortable. I try to be fair and concede. If you're saving for a house, I can understand different situations, but no matter the reason, it is very traumatic for children. I've heard a few people who review the Jenkins say that, and I agree 100%. I have 3 sisters by my mother and father. My mother passed, and my father remarried and had 2 more children, and the woman he married had 2 children outside of that. So there were a lot of us, and a lot of us were crammed in 1 bedroom. And when I'm watching the Resilient Jenkins, I think of my father's 2nd major relationship into marriage. And a lot of that's about the adults, and it's selfish. Like with Andrew and Stephanie in your king-size bed with the PS5, that picture you posted, you can tell that's his PS5. Those children don't play with that PS5 no more than they sleep on that king-size bed. While you 2 are sleeping in comfort, they're on the floor in the kitchen in the living room. And Stephanie had the audacity to say that her 2 girls, who are not by Andrew, her 2 girls destroyed their beds because they're destructive. I've heard other single mothers and different women say kids are destructive and things, and kids may destroy things, but I personally don't believe kids have a destructive phase. Children usually destroy things when they're not happy. That picture I referenced of the PS5 and them sitting there, if you look at those 2 little girls, they can't stand Andrew. I can see it on their face, and there's a look on their face like, Mom, why are you putting us through this? Because I bet you dollars to donuts, when Stephanie was living in a comfortable 3-bedroom with her mother, those children didn't destroy things. I'm quite sure her mother should be a late baby boomer or early Gen Xer. And I'm quite sure those children were structured, going to school, had their own space, and life was a lot more comfortable. Same with Andrew's son, because let's be honest, and it's in these times for a lot of people, a 1-bedroom with an adult and 1 child is doable. You know, you can make, especially if the child is on the younger end, like his son is. But 5 other kids you barely know because your parents met online with COVID. It's just ridiculous to me. And I'll tell you what else. You know, I'm seeing more and more of these young African-American men, and men in general these days, that don't want to work. It's scary and it's sickening. And for some strange reason, I think a lot of these people think the internet's going to make them millionaires overnight. And they're going to get out of working hard. I told you guys I moved to Phoenix in April, and I had to come through the shelter system. I had researched the shelter system back on the East Coast, courtesy of YouTube, shout out to my YouTubers and local news stations. So I kind of had a game plan coming into this. But I'll tell you what, when I got to Cass in Phoenix, I saw so many Andrews of various ages. Kicking back, rapping, acting like they're at a hangout and not a fucking shelter. Excuse my language. Like they had all the time in the world. Now the work program that helped me save for my apartment, St. Joseph the Worker, I never saw them in there. Very few. Never saw them in there. But you could catch them outside rapping, listening to rap music, smoking weed, talking about the women that are out the shelter, all this other bullshit. If I go through a bout of homelessness, only thing I think of is getting out of it. Not these young men. Just like the couple out in Pennsylvania that was living in the storage facility, at the storage facility. What really gets me is not only are these young men lazy, they act like they're entitled to be this lazy and not want to work, but bring kids in the world. Or have an entitlement that other people should pay for them. These young women too, because Stephanie and these ones approaching 30, you 94, 95, 96 babies, it's time to pick it up. My father had his issues, but one of my favorite sayings my father taught me was, you can be a kid or an adult, but you can't be both. And if you are an adult enough to make all these children, you should be adult enough to take care of them. And this is in no way to dismiss the importance of people who have anxiety, social disorders, depression, all that. Because most people go through things in life that they have to manage. But anxiety is becoming a scapegoat, and these young people talking about their physical ailments and things as young as they are, that's the reason they don't want to work, is a bunch of BS. When that woman, Stephanie, sat there and said, what about the health ailments? People don't think about this. When Andrew was talking about how he wanted $30 an hour for a job. We'll get to that in a second. Health ailments, you're 28 and 35 years old. There are men out here that are older than my father would have been, still working. And you mean to tell me at 35 you have ailments so deep that you can't work? And yes, he should be working 2 or 3 jobs. He's taking on the responsibility of this woman with these extra children and making all these kids. Yeah, he should be working till he can't no more. Yeah, fuck his physical ailments. And then the $30 an hour for a job. Now, there's people with college degrees. There's people that have been on jobs for years that are not making $30 an hour. And if they are, they have a skill set, a degree or certification, or they have a really great work ethic and great personality, so they're moldable and shapeable for a company to want to keep them and promote them. Andrew doesn't have any of that from what I've seen, because his baby mother and ex-girlfriend, who came into this storyline, said he has an addiction problem, which I believe, because if he's 35, he was born in 88 or 89, and most of those people from that time were born with drugs in their system. I'll leave it at that. So what in the world, how in the world is a better question, is his labor ever worth $30 an hour? Someone answer that for me. Because he seems lazy, entitled, selfish and petulant, like a lot of these 30-somethings and 40-somethings nowadays. You're not always going to live in comfort as an adult. And I think this is a time where people seem to think you should be a millionaire by 25. I don't know if there's ever been a time like this. Some things, especially when you're bringing children into the world, people... I'm 44 and I don't have children. And people have criticized me for this and whatnot. But what a lot of people don't understand, and some do, they play the shot like they don't, especially if you're an African American. There's so many Drews, Darrell Brooks-esque type men in the black community of various ages. It's almost impossible to make a stable home with a lot of them. The women too, because there's kids coming from everywhere. And now, and it's in other ethnicities, don't get it twisted, because Stephanie is a prime example of that. And there's this attitude, Some things are about black and white. Some things are about young and old. Amongst younger Americans, you can just make babies with different people, and marriage is a game and a joke, and it's not. And in the next 15 years, when all these children are entering their young adulthoods and they don't want to have anything to do with you, when they don't want to take care of you, when they're so selfish they don't see that's when y'all be having ailments, Stephanie and Andrew. Because in the next 15 years, you'll be my age or a little older, Lord willing. Then you're going to find out. You're going to find out. Because a lot of that mess, that she had on that Amazon wish list, 2 adults should be able to get in one household. Come on, girl. You mean to tell me you couldn't get I think it was a Dutch oven or some type of iron pot she received from Amazon? And I don't knock your hustle, Holmes. I don't knock them. Shit, if people gonna buy it, go ahead. But those people buying shit, understand, you're not helping them. You're enabling them. Because for some reason, people born in the latter 90s, latter 80s seem to think a couple things. Nobody else goes through anything. They're entitled for people to take care of them. And they shouldn't have to work but so much. And I don't know where this came from. I just moved. I understand you can't buy everything at one time. You got to plan things. But kitchen accessories and things, they should be able to take care of that. Neither one of them want to work. They just want to keep breeding. And this seems to be this almost bubbling to the surface culture we're going into, where these young men, particularly young men, do not want to work. And I don't understand it, because my father was a lot of things, but that motherfucker worked. He worked for a very long time. And as I said, I see older men out here working. Hell, some of these men my dad's age aren't even working for their own kids anymore. They're working to help grandkids and shit. And you niggas at 20-something, 30-something, mean to tell 40-something, because I've run into a lot of that in Phoenix. A lot of these black guys always boo-hoo when they can't get work, or it's too tiring, or don't pay enough. Hey, it's like I was told in my 30s when I was hitting Philadelphia at 30 years old, and I was on my ass. Listen here, a half a loaf of bread is better than no loaf. And I promise you, if Andrew was more hardworking, and Stephanie, because you can work too, people will respect you more and want to genuinely help you. Not help you because they feel so bad for these fucking kids you got living like this. Who the fuck puts their baby on a kitchen floor next to a door in 2024, almost 2025? The selfishness is just off the hook these days. And as I said, what frightens me is a lot of these young men not wanting to work. This is bothersome. And I'm tired of hearing about the economy and things, because like here in Phoenix, if you ain't working, it's because you're choosing not to. And you're not always going to get the job you want. And yes, it's hard for people across fields right now, because I absolutely agree with people talking about a lot of these jobs in various fields are underpaid. I agree with that fully. But that's no excuse to not work. And for the men and women that want to become parents, you have to work. It's like one lady said reviewing this family, and I've said this in the streets, because people with kids get to shut people without kids down. You ain't got no kids. No. Like she said, but we've all been children. Everyone that's an adult has been a child. And if you want people to appreciate I would think if you're a good parent, if you will want your kid not to go through the things you went through. I lived in one bedroom with my siblings and other kids that weren't related to me. I never want my children to go through that, especially if there's a man in the motherfucking house. And as I said, I'll give my father credit. He was saving for another house. He bought both of his wives a house. My mother, and then he bought his second wife a house. But it doesn't take away. It was a messed up experience for us children. And they ain't even saving for a house. For fuck's sakes, they ain't even saving for a 2-bedroom. They think this shit all right. But again, when you're laying down on a king-size bed with a nice big television next to you, you get to close the kids out, close the door so you can bump uglies. Because this stuff is about lust. That's what this is about. Not caring about his children because he has an older child he doesn't take care of. talking about I was paying by garnishment. You niggas need to pick up a book and put down social media. Or if you're gonna use the internet, Google what a garnishment is, Andrew, because you're a jerk. You weren't paying. The government, the powers that be, were making you pay. There's a difference. But on that note, I'm going to follow the Resilient Jenkins. I might follow up. Guys, I'm looking forward to growing my channel. For Christmas, Lord willing, I'm buying a new computer, trying to move into the future. And this doesn't do what I need it to do. But thank you for sticking it in with me. You can look forward to more content. This is Rochelle Tannen. I'm out of here.